I appreciate it. Is everybody ready? Everybody set up? Okay, fantastic. Thank you all for being here. Today was the end of a long 3-year journey. We were able to, at conviction and now at sentencing, really get justice for Christine Banfield and Joseph Ryan. And I think what you saw today was the only appropriate sentence in this case, which is that Brendan Banfield is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. That's what we sought after when we brought these charges. We thought that was the appropriate sentence. That's what he got. I mean, you were all in the courtroom. I think it is what happened today really showed Brendan Banfield is a remorseless killer. Even today, he tried to make himself out to be the victim in this case. And that's why we think the sentence that he got today, life in prison, no possibility of parole, no possibility of sentencing credits, is the appropriate outcome. Who has questions?
How do you describe someone like that?
You know, he thought he could create the perfect crime. He thought he was smarter than everybody else. And it proved, you know, through trial and the hard work of the police department, through the hard work of our prosecution team, that he wasn't. And, you know, quite frankly, he's an evil guy. This was an evil crime, and he thought he was smart enough to get away with it, and he just wasn't. Drew?
Yeah, the Chief Judge touched on it there, but this punishment 5 years ago, 6 years ago, he could have been sentenced to death. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, the severity of this conviction and this punishment and its relationship to what Virginia abolished some years ago?
Yes, of course, Virginia a few years ago was a death penalty state. It no longer is, but it still has the aggravated murder charge, which is what we charged Brendan Banfield under. We brought that charge because aggravated murder, regardless of whether it was a death penalty case or whether it was mandatory life in prison, is the most severe charge in our statute code book. It's the most severe charge you can bring in Virginia. And this was a case where the most severe charge was warranted, because I will tell you, I have been doing this job for a while. I've been a prosecutor for a long time. I haven't seen a crime like this. Chief Judge Askarati mentioned that this is a crime that rises to the top in her in terms of her career, in terms of severity and evilness. So the fact that we brought these aggravated murder charges, to us, it was necessary because that was the only charge that reflected the seriousness, the deviousness of this crime.
Were you surprised by Brendan's statement there?
You know, I can't say I was surprised. You know, I think it was part and parcel with how he testified at trial. I think that same character that you saw when he took the stand in his own defense a few months ago came out again here today. A guy who pointed a finger at everybody other than himself. A guy who tried to outsmart the system. But in the final analysis, he did what he did. He was convicted. Now he has to pay.
Steve, how were the families who heard him still blaming Joseph and Christine after the hearing? What did they share with you about their reaction to that?
Well, Jenna, do you have anything that you want to share?
Sure.
Can you come up to the mic?
Yeah.
The families have been through so much. They really struggled with the ins and outs of the motions that preceded the trial. They sat through weeks of testimony where their family members were slandered, to be completely honest. So today they found closure, and I think they were at peace, but with so long a haul to get to this point, there was no explosion of emotion, if that answers your question. There was no final breath of relief. They've been through a lot, and they've been through it all, and I think they're ready to move on.
More anger that he's still telling that story?
No. They're not surprised by anything with this man. There was nothing that he has done at any point in this process that made sense or that showed the remorse that they expected to be shown. So no, today was just more Brendan Banfield being Brendan Banfield.
And I think to Jenna's point, we see that in these types of cases. The process is long, and victims of crimes like this suffer so much that, you know, oftentimes a conviction or even a severe sentence can never make these individuals whole, right? You know, we do our best to do justice, but the only true justice would be if Christine Banfield and Joseph Ryan were still among us today. So I always feel that for victims of crimes like these, the journey towards healing is long, but we hope that this is another step in that, because these folks were wrong. They went through so much, and they deserve to be able to heal.
Can I ask one more thing, you, Jenna, or Steve? At the end, you were asking for no contact
Yeah.
with the daughter. The judge seemed to think, well, he's going to be in for prison for life. Did you not want him being able to write her or her to go visit him?
That was actually a request from the victim's family, and quite frankly, they had been through so much that we wanted to ask, that we wanted to at least ask the judge for something that would help give them closure. We're not surprised by the judge's ruling, but we felt that it was only right to ask.
And was that what you were asking for, that he not write
Yes.
at any point, now or yeah?
Yes, I mean, I think the family wants Brendan's daughter to be able to grow up as normally as possible. Obviously, this is a abnormal situation, but she's a young girl who has her whole life ahead of her, and she has people that are around her that care about her, and they just want to give her the best opportunity to heal and continue on with her life.
Is she still living with his family, though?
Well, I don't want to get too much into the. So I don't want to get too much into the custody battle. I'd like to keep it to the criminal charge, because, quite frankly, I don't want to step into something, a family drama that could be painful, particularly when the person at issue is, quite frankly, a little girl.
Can you speak to the next step? Sounds like he's going to appeal.
Of course. We're not surprised that he would appeal. As a matter of fact, pretty much any case like this has an appeal. What'll happen is he has his time to appeal. Appellate counsel was assigned, and the Attorney General's office will be handling criminal appeals as per Virginia Code. But quite frankly, you all saw the case. You all saw the evidence. We feel confident that the police did a wonderful investigation, that we put forward a very, very strong case. We already heard yesterday the defense make these arguments to overturn the conviction. They were rejected roundly by the judge, and we expect to prevail at appeal as well.
Are there sometimes disputes within an investigation of what the evidence actually shows and proves? So is this not uncommon?
Well, to be honest, I think in this case, a lot of that was really blown out of proportion. I think what you have typically, as somebody who obviously has been involved in a lot of investigations, is you start wide, and as you get more things, you're testing theories, right? So essentially it is not that there were disagreements, it's just that as you get forward, as more doors close, you hone in. But the last thing that anybody wants a police department to do, or prosecutors to do, is immediately hone in on one theory before all the evidence is in, right? So I think what happened in this case is normal investigatory procedure tried to get blown out of proportion as part of a defense strategy, which, fair play to them. When you're a defense attorney and you're on trial, you're doing everything that you can for your client, who is the defendant. But what we saw here is what you would see in any big high-profile case.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
If I may ask
Yeah.
an unrelated question, just your response to the congressional letter being sent to you.
Yeah, it is. I got to tell you, it is amazing to me that Congress doesn't have anything better to do than harass the people in charge of the justice system of the country's safest large jurisdiction, bar none. And quite frankly, let's be honest, this isn't even about my office or Fairfax County. This committee, if you've taken a look at what they've done over the last month or so, they have sent these letters and tried to harass the leaders of justice systems all around cities and counties that are led by Democrats. In my view, it's because there's a election coming up in a couple months, and Republicans on that congressional committee, they think that they're going to save their majority by trying to scare up panic about immigrants and about crime. But I will tell you this: if the members of that committee, the House Judiciary Committee, if the Republican members of that committee actually cared about public safety, they would let local prosecutors, local police, local sheriffs, local judges do their job and not have to waste time responding to political nonsense from D.C. That's what I think of that letter. Anything else? All right, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it.
Have a good barbecue.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah.